Before we begin, I'd just like to thank the new paid supporters to the show. On Spotify, I'd like to thank Annalise, Lindsay, Jonathan, and Aaron. Welcome on board. And over on Substack, I'd also like to thank Sophie. I'd like to thank Lucia Williams. And I'd really like to thank Keir Kirby. Keir Kirby is the lady who sang the song Groove is in the Heart. She left a message, Doc Malik, to hear voices of truth sharing ideas is surely one of the best examples you could set to uplift, inspire and motivate us. Thank you. I think of you and smile. Groove is in your heart. Keir Kirby from D Light. Wow. That's a lovely message to receive. And lastly, I'd like to thank Wendy Webb. Thanks for all of you who've subscribed. I'm sorry if I've missed any names. I know times are tough and, everything adds up. Inflation is rampant and it's not easy. There's so many people to support out there. So those of you who've stuck with me from the beginning and, believe in this show and believe in what I'm doing, I'd just like to say thank you very much. All right, folks, enjoy the show. Before we begin, I want to quickly explain a small but important change to how this podcast works. Up until now, many of you will know that 1 in 3 episodes sat behind a paywall. I'm moving away from that model. From now on, the first half of every main podcast episode will be free for everyone. These conversations remain open and accessible, and that's important to me. For those who choose to support the show, the second half of each episode will be reserved for paid supporters. This is where the conversation often deepens, and it now includes a live interactive segment where supporters can ask questions of my guests and of me. If you value this work and want access to the full conversation, the ability to ask questions, and to join our private Telegram community, please consider becoming a supporter. Your support keeps this podcast independent, uncaptured, and alive, and sponsor and ad-free. Thanks for being here. Now, let's get into this conversation.
You are listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So, if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or his Substack. Or simply buy him a coffee with a one-off donation, links to which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get on with the show.
Normally just pitch up at people's homes and not know why or who they are, and it's very nice of you to come, but
yeah, I don't tend to like being a guest on podcasts.
Why not?
I don't think I'm particularly an expert in anything, and I like to interview experts. I often think of myself as the dummy in the room, and I think I've had quite an easy job where I just say, well, explain that to me. I don't understand. And they explain it, and then people subscribe and listen to the show. But more recently, I've become a bit more opinionated, and I tend to accept doing an interview if I'm, I feel like I'm at a pivotal point in my life where I almost want to just talk to somebody.
Well, if it's any comfort to you, when people do come over here, but 70-80% of my guests will say to me, that's probably the best conversation interview I've ever given. And I go, great. I get a lot of people opening up and saying things they've never said before.
Yeah.
I also have a lot of people crying, which I've now, the reason why I've got those tissues there. I just seem to get things out of people. And I think that's from the days of when I was a surgeon and a consultant. I used to have really in-depth conversation, and I'd come home and tell my wife. She'd be like, how do these people tell you this stuff? Why are all these people crying and hugging you? Like, well, no one does that to me. So yeah. I almost feel like my medical training was kind of like preparing for that. But listen, why'd you say yes to a podcast when you don't even know about me in the show and everything? That's very brave.
Well, firstly, like I said, it always tends to be at a time in my life where I'm thinking about things, pondering a lot about life. And I feel like I've got something to talk about. Because like I said, I don't think of myself as an expert in much. But I feel like I've got to live a very fortunate life, a lot of experiences, and nothing unique about me. But I imagine there are people of a similar age who are pondering similar things at the same time of their life. And then perhaps this may be something people will go, yeah, I'm feeling like that at the moment. I'm feeling confused, or I'm at that stage in my life. Like, what am I going to do about that? And like, I'm not particularly religious. I'm not Christian. Well, I mean, I was christened, but I don't go to church. I believe in science. I hear about people who are very kind of spiritual, and I'm not. But I've always noticed this pattern in my life, like certain weird coincidences happen, and you can ignore them, or you can say, well, is that my mind trying to find and trying to direct me in a certain direction, or is there something weird spiritual shit going on? So I don't know. But just in the last I'd say month, I've been kind of like really pondering life, my role as a father, what I've always chased in life, what it's delivered, what it hasn't. And I would say the last week especially, I've been kind of so I tell you what happened. I was seeing this girl for a long time, for about a year. And one of the challenges in the relationship is how much I work. You know, I have a football club, a podcast, I own a bar, a coffee shop. I'm active politically, and I'm constantly finding new things to do, and just didn't have time for her. And she came to me and she said, I think you have adult ADHD. And I was like, no, I was definitely ADHD as a kid, but no, I don't. She's like, oh, I think you do. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then, like I said, these things then pop up, and I had this thing pop up on my Instagram, which was signs of adult ADHD. It's probably just the phone listening, right?
It does.
And so it had this list. It's like, you don't sleep well, you're always starting new things, and you don't finish the previous thing. And I was like, shit. That's me. And so over the last kind of month or so, I've started to shed these things from my life. Like the bar I own, I only bought the bar as an ego. Oh, I own the coolest bar in town. I'm Mr. Barman. Come to my bar because I'm so cool. I'm getting rid of it. I've stopped being active politically in the town. Wasn't giving me any happiness. And I'm even thinking of, like, with my podcast, why do I go to London and have this fancy studio to bring people in? Well, I want to get the best guests and get the most downloads. And even that, it's chasing ego. So I'm thinking of getting rid of that studio. And so anyway, I'm on the way down, and I'm listening to Tucker Carlson and Mike Cernovich, somebody I've interviewed before. And I can tell you the timestamp. It's 1 hour 33. Because I went and listened to it again. He talked about this ayahuasca moment, and he talked about it was showing him his house when he was a kid. And he was like, I hate this house. Can I swear?
Yeah.
I hate this fucking house. It's a shit house. It's full of holes, and I didn't want to bring people over. I was embarrassed. And it was saying, yeah, but look, you had all that love in that house. And he realized he spent his life chasing money, and because he wanted to give his kids the best. But actually what his kids want, his time and his love. And I was like, shit, I've done exactly the same as this. I have thought that the role of me in life is to be able to provide for my kids, and, you know, and success is wealth, and all these kind of like typical cliche things. Because we had a tough, my parents are amazing. They worked so hard. And then my dad put me into a school he couldn't afford. He worked shift after shift of overtime to do it. And so I thought, right, I've got to work hard so my kids don't have that. And I've done exactly what I thought I was meant to do. And I look what's consequences have been, which was a lost marriage, not seeing my kids all the time, always having that lame parental excuse of, I'm busy working, I'm putting you through school, that kind of thing you do as a dad, and just realize I am a walking, talking cliche of bullshit. And so I listened to that, and then I rewound it and listened to it again just before I got here. I had to listen to it again, and I was like, this is one of those forks in the road times in my life. And I don't think I'm very special. But I can imagine, I don't know how many listeners you get, but there may be.
But I've got two.
You got two.
I got my mum, and I listen back as well.
So maybe you're in the... No, you're going to have more than that. But like, maybe just because you can interview, I don't know, you can interview somebody who was an expert in cardio and they can teach you about cardiac activity or mental health and they can teach you about meditation. All I can add it to this conversation is if there's somebody out there at the moment who's like 47 years old, feeling a bit empty despite achieving what society says you should achieve, then perhaps this will be useful. And do you know what? It makes me think. I've got a tattoo on my leg of a guy called Jiddu Krishnamurti. He's like an Indian philosopher. And I always think of this quote of his where he says, "It's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." And I always loved the quote. And I would say right in this very moment is the moment where I truly get it on a personal level. Because we do live in a profoundly sick society. We can talk about that. We could talk about the wars in the world or the famine or the corruption or all the political bullshit that we watch day in, day out and we get sucked into, or I get sucked in being part of. It is a profoundly sick society. And I am very well adjusted to it. I have been successful in it. I'm well adjusted to it. And I feel empty by it. Yeah.
Right. So for someone who's thought, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, I'm not an expert. Well, you freaking just went in the deep end. I mean, you're 47. So what I would say to you is, mate, you're incredibly honest, and the reflection, self-reflection you've done, and the realization you've come to. Many people go to the grave without ever obtaining that. So you know what? Well done. Better late than never. And I had the similar kind of awakening, by the way. I was in my early 40s. I'm 50 now. Dad was dying of cancer. He was visiting. He was literally on the sofa in the living room there. And I was working 6 days a week. All my life, I'd be struggling to like just make ends meet. Junior doctor, young family, you know, parents, immigrants up in Scotland, working class background, never had money. I just wanted to be comfortable, wanted to get a house, get a home, and not be that kid who's wearing school clothes with holes in them and not able to go on the ski holiday because dad and mum couldn't pay for it. Just wanted to have that comfort in life, and then working hard to become a consultant surgeon, and then I finally did it. And then it's like private practice, this, that, working 6 days a week. My dad was sitting there going, "Son, it's 10 o'clock at night, you got a plate of food. Just come home. You're going to get up at 6 and leave before your wife wakes up and your kids wake up. And you came home after your wife's in bed and your kids are asleep. And you do this 6 days a week. Why are you doing this? You're overweight at the time I was. You're diabetic. Honestly, take it from me. You look like shit. And I'm dying. And I can tell you this isn't what life is about. Don't make the mistakes that I made. And it was like a wet fish slapped on my face. And I couldn't go to sleep that night. And the next day, I resigned from the NHS. I only worked 3 days a week privately. I stopped sending my kids to childcare. I did everything. I started later in the day so I could drop them off at school, pick them up. So I finished early. I reconnected with my wife and I was healthier for it. And I made a lot less money. And then I got involved with Brexit Party, another story. Then the pandemic hit, another story, and all that shit. Then I spoke out against the vaccines and the trans agenda and got cancelled. And here I am as a podcaster. You've seen my car in the driveway. It's a shitty 12, 13-year-old car, but there's no debt on it. I've got no debt. I live a very simple, frugal life. But I have a lot of love in my life. And I'm wealthier than all my colleagues. I'm fitter, happier. I've got purpose. My wife adores me. I have lots of sex. Kids love me and spend a lot of time with me. And so everything you say, I'm like, I know what you're talking about because I've been there.
Yeah. It's funny you say all of those things because, and I don't mean this as a flex at all, but I am financially wealthy. I'm a multi-millionaire. I have a Range Rover and a Lamborghini. I live in a £2 million house. I have vast savings and I feel quite empty. with it all. But let me just
Yeah,
add to that.
Dude, I get that.
And,
I get that.
And anyone listener, I promise you, I'm not saying this at all as a flex. I'm saying it because it's the reality of the situation, because there's that saying in business, it's lonely at the top. And I understood what that meant recently. It's a bit like Machiavelli's The Prince, right? There's like there's the reality of the world whereby to be successful, you kind of have to. You don't have to. Sorry, that's so unfair to say. But to be successful, you can be savage, brutal, hard, and firm, which is the way a lot of the world works. But you leave a trail of destruction behind you. You know, you upset people, you lose relationships, you fall out with people. Again, I lost my marriage over working too hard. And you go home to your house with your car outside, and you're on your own, you're overweight, you are a slave to the finances you've created. Like, I have more money now than most people will ever have, like top 0.1% maybe.
Yeah.
And I sit there worrying about, well, what if I lose it? How do I get to the end of life with this amount of money? How do I leave enough for my children? And really, that's like the devil on my shoulder.
Can I show you something very quickly?
Yeah.
This is my, you don't need to read it out. This is my worth and my mortgage at the bottom. I don't care.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm happy.
You can stick a few zeros on that, and
I'm happy and content.
But I've got this, that's the devil on my shoulder. And on the other shoulder, I've got the angel saying to me, Pete, what do you enjoy doing? I enjoy going to the gym and playing tennis. Well, you could do that every day. What else do you enjoy doing? Do you know what my favorite job I have is when I go to my coffee shop I own? It doesn't make any money, this place. But I can't use my phone. My phone's away. And I'm just talking to customers. How's your day? How's the coffee? Do you like the coffee? You know, some kid will come in. Oh, you're at school. What are you studying? What are you going to hoping to do in life? And I love doing that. I absolutely love doing it. I'm a slave to my own podcast. I'm like, well, which guest should I get? Which is going to get the downloads? I need to get this many downloads so I keep the advertisers happy. And I'm just like there going, like, I don't blame myself entirely. You know, we have to live in this world. We have to survive. But there's two really important points. There is a myth of money. And so when people say money doesn't make you happy, I say it differently. Being broke can make you very unhappy.
Very stressful.
Yeah, not being able to afford to put on your heating or feed your kids. Not being able to afford your rent. That sucks. But the hurdle you need to get over to be okay in life is very small. It is, can you pay your mortgage? Can you go to the supermarket and buy food without worrying about it? Can you go to the cinema on the weekend with the kids? And can you have a holiday each year? And I think most people,
That's it.
Everything after that is lumpy, because me and my kids were as happy in the 400 grand house we were in as we are in the £2 million house, because we're together. The house doesn't make us happier, right? So,
Dude, you know what? My little boy.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, you know what makes him happy?
You.
Me not being on a phone, not being on a laptop. And you know what? Just speaking to him and talking to him and drawing with him and reading to him. It's free. He doesn't want toys. I thought, you know, because I didn't get toys. I didn't get birthday presents. We got one Christmas present. You know, my earliest memory as a 4-year-old getting a yellow Tonka truck. Probably the best Christmas present I've ever had in my life. I bought him one because I wanted him to get. I bought him all these Star Wars things because I never got those Star Wars. I got a figurine when everybody else got a Millennium Falcon. I got him all, and he doesn't play with them. He doesn't. And I say, you don't play with any of you. He goes, I don't want that. I want to do something with you, Daddy.
Let's go kick a ball.
Let's go kick a ball. Literally, it's free. That's what they want.
Yeah, and so that myth of money, everything after that is lumps. It's a lumpier, it's a bigger house, it's a faster car, it is a yacht, it is a private jet. It's basically all in the realm of ego. It's all in the realm of what you want the world to think of you, because you think value comes from people going, oh, he has that car, that house, he's successful. When actually a lot of people in the background going, wanker. You know, and I know they are. I know they've done that to me. So I've got to that point. I've done everything I thought I was meant to do, and I did too much. whereas there was enough before. But the other point I want to make on that myth of money is, unfortunately, and this is another reality, is we do live in a world of people who control how the country and the world works at a financial level, and they are making this very hard for everybody else. They make it significantly harder for people to be able to get to that basic hurdle. We are squeezing and killing the middle class in this country, and if you do that, you will destroy a country. Every single socialist country has destroyed the middle class first. We see this week Donald Trump going into Venezuela. It's a country I know very well. I went there and made a documentary, and I can talk to you about that. The 8 million who left, the majority left of the middle class, who had their savings wiped out, their businesses destroyed, and they had the means and the ambition to leave and go to other countries to build a successful life for themselves. We're doing exactly the same thing here in our country. We are destroying the middle class. So as much as I want to go, oh, I don't want to be part of this, I've done too much. Actually, the life I lead needs to be a lot simpler and I'll be a lot happier. There is the burden then of, well, that's fine, but how do we make this a more achievable goal for more people? Which means you kind of have to become political. And so there's this push and pull in my life. There's this this push to go, stop doing all these businesses and try and make money. You don't need to do that anymore. And then there's this pull that all these people in this country alone who deserve an opportunity are having their lives made materially harder by the greed that exists within the financial system, the asset managers who move money around the world, who start wars, and this isn't conspiracy, who start wars and lead regime change, and the Black Rocks and your Vanguards, and the political class which is beholden to them, who create the policies and the rules that makes life difficult for everyone. And so I'm being pulled into that world. I'm being asked to become an MP and become a politician to try and make change. And so it's a real fork in the road. There's like two forks. Fork one is, should I shed all these distractions in my life and be around for my kids and family? I've already made that decision. The next one is do I just live a life of peace? Do I get up every day, play tennis, read a book, be there with my kids, and ignore the world around me? I create my bubble. Or do I recognize outside my bubble there are a lot of people who are struggling, and if I carry the honest truth within my heart and go and become an MP, can I make change and difference? And that comes with its own complexities, because there are really tough decisions in this world which challenge you on that fine line between kindness and reality. And the perfect, sorry, I'm waffling on and on at the moment, but like one great example of that is immigration. I've been into a refugee camp. I made a documentary in Turkey when Erdogan was kicking people out of the country, and it's devastating. I know there are people there who've escaped wars, but I know there's a lot of economic migrants as well. And when we look at migration in this country, there is the empathetic view, everybody wants a better life, they should be able to come in. And then there's the harsh reality that can have a negative impact on the rest of the country. And so if you want to become an MP, even if you have nothing but love and goodness in your heart, you may have to make really harsh and tough decisions to protect one group over another group.
Right. Can I interject?
A whole big... You can see but can you see the dilemmas I'm living with in my life?
Yes. And what I would say is there are potentially other options as well that you haven't considered.
Sure.
So let's go back a bit. You said, I don't know what I'm talking about because I've had all these experts. I'm, dumb or whatever. And don't say that. I used to say that. I'm just a dumb orthopod. The thing is, I've spoken to over 450 people now on my podcast. Some of that drips into your brain, what they have to say. And I'm sure you've had the same. Yeah, all these people I've spoken to and broadened your horizon, your knowledge, your understanding. You also have to research your guests, their topics. You read books. I mean, look at the shelf behind me. So when you do the podcast, you're in a unique position after having spoken to all these wonderful people. And not necessarily you have to agree with everything, but get this perspective that you don't normally have just walking down the street and having a normal job. I'm saying that as one podcaster to another.
Yeah.
And I think through that does put you in a unique position where you can comment on things. And so I would like to know about what you think about the world, and you talked about the country and everything. We'll talk about that. But let's go back a bit. So, a lot of people that I've found that have drive themselves, like myself, come from a position where, maybe they never had things easy when they were younger. Maybe there was trauma in their childhood, parents arguing and fighting, people who've been abused. What do you think shaped you into this person? Why did you want, what drove you? Because you're driven, you're a very driven man. And like you talked about ego. So I think a lot of the thing you said, I want pub, I want this podcast, comes from actually deep-seated insecurity. If you don't truly love who you are, you want that external validation. That's where it's ultimately coming from. And the question is, why do you think that is the case? Like, what is it in your childhood that made you feel like that? For me, it was simple. My parents were fighting like cats and dogs. So I felt very unloved. I did the whole, psilocybin journey, and I've gone back and done inner child integration. And that's where it was for me. I just felt very unloved. I didn't feel good enough, didn't have any self-worth. And I carried that with me for most of my adult life. What do you think it was for you, and why?
My son asked me this question. So my son's 21, and I raised him on my own from the age of about 12, 13. So we have a very close and tight relationship. And naturally, when I'm in the autopilot part of my life, I'm trying to shape him into what I think he should be, which is usually in the kind of shadow of yourself. It's like a mirror of yourself. I've achieved success by doing this, therefore you need to do this. I would say, well, all your competitors are working 40 hours a week. When you get up at 6 and you started work at 7, you've done 2 hours more than them. And if you finish at 5, you'll finish at the same time. But look, if you finish at 8, you're doing 3 more hours. I'm like, in a day, you've done 50% more than them. You can be really successful by doing that. And I've shaped him into that. And he did ask me one day, because it's not him. He's just not that guy. And he's such a beautiful soul of a person. We're now at the point, you'll have this with your son at some point. We're now at the point in our lives where he corrects me, tells me no, and if I don't react quickly, I ponder on what he says, I have to realize that he is right. And it's an amazing thing to go through with a child.
Yeah, I'm getting that now as a 7-year-old. I'm telling you.
Yes, but you will get it. They teach you different lessons as a 7-year-old. It's like,
yeah, I know.
Their sadness teaches you a lesson at times where that's your failure. But he has insights into the world and his choices and my choices where he is just correct. And it's a great thing to go through. But he said to me at one point, a couple of years ago, we were in the car. He was like, "Dad, where does your drive come from?" And honestly, there's no actual way of knowing, because I've always had it. Maybe it's in my DNA. I had a paper round at 13 and then 2. And then I got a job at a shop, and then I became the manager, and then I set up a magazine. I just constantly did things. But I think I do know where it came from, is that my dad wanted the best for us. Education for him was important. He was an aircraft engineer. He sent us to a private school. And you can't do that on an aircraft engineer's salary unless you work overtime. And for overtime for him was 4 days on, 4 days off. So the 4 days off is what shifts could he take? And he would take every single one that he could for 30 years. He put me and my brother through a private school. But because he couldn't afford really to send us to that school, I was one of the poorest kids in that school. Whereas if I'd gone to the local state school, we're all the same. I mean, all the kids I ran around the street with and all my friends.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, and there's a broader point on society. So let me tell this and then tell the broader point. But because it was another insight from my son. But generally speaking, there was no internet when we were kids, right? We ran around the streets, and all the houses were about the same size. So all your friends were about the same size, and all your parents had a similar kind of job and money. So everyone was in the same bucket. There was always that random rich guy that you knew, and they lived on the edge of the town in the mansion. Your dad maybe was friends with him. It's like, oh, I mean, I know who that guy was, and that was the rich guy. But generally everyone was the same. But they all went to the same school, and I went to the private school where all the kids were from the village were from. And so I had my hand-me-down brother's clothes. When we played rugby and kids were in their new black and red top, mine was a little bit grey and a little bit pink. When we got back after Christmas and people talked about the Christmas presents they got, I kind of told lies because I didn't have the same. And so in that environment, I was like, oh shit, if I want to compete with those, I've got to outwork them. So that's probably where my drive came from. It didn't come from a lack of love. My parents loved me. There's a lot of love in the home. Tensions? I think every family has tensions, but a lot of love. What's really interesting about the world today is my son said, because I explained this to him, he said, do you know what's different in my world, Dad? He said, because of social media, your peer group isn't your road you live on or the houses around you. Your peer group is the entire fucking world. So you would see, the other kids at the school who had like a little bit more. He says, I see the kid in Dubai driving a Lamborghini who's my age. He said, and so we're not just set the goal of, here's a better job or maybe you start a business. We're set the goal of basically to make it, you have to be a multi-millionaire social media success. And that was a real insight that I got from him that I'd never even thought about.
So I tell my kids the opposite to what I was told as a kid. So I was told, we're from another country. We have to work really hard to be accepted. You will have to be the top of the class because your color, because your name. And if you're not, you're not going to get ahead. You're going to be disadvantaged. You need to work, go to university and be a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, kids, you don't want to go to university. You're just going to get indoctrinated, get 80 grand in debt. You don't need that. Do you know what? Money isn't everything. Being happy and healthy is everything.
What's your family's background?
Pakistani.
Which part?
Oh, but this is where it gets complicated. So my dad's family is actually from India, but because of the partition, they came over. My mum's family is originally from Rajasthan, but then they're settled in Deir Ghazi Khan. That's kind of like all over the place. Quetta, Balochistan, Lahore, lots of different places. So anyway, but I was born in Glasgow. And so I tell my kids, I'm like, look, true happiness comes from purpose in life, from authenticity, from the relationships you have, love. And I said, you will be successful if you know how to talk to people, if you have good common sense, if you have good communication, and you manage yourself. And happiness will come from being who you want to be, not working in an office block, 8 to 6 or whatever, and chasing a dream career and a big salary. Money is not going to buy you happiness. It will buy you options. So this is what I tell my kids. And it's like funny when you're talking about your podcast, I think, I'm the complete opposite to you. People ask me all the time, well, how many viewers get? What's your top podcast? I don't check the metrics. I don't look at the downloads. I don't give a flying fuck about any of that shit. But I kid you not. I kid you not.
No, I'm sure. And that's, the ironic thing about this is, look, I'm a slave to sponsor ads. And it was a conversation I had with my son recently because he is the producer and the editor of the podcast. He has a mic now and a camera, and we talk on it. And I said, for us to achieve our full form, we might have to discard our sponsors because the sponsors came before the content.
Oh.
Well, so I used to... So
how did that work out?
Well, so what happened was for 8 years, I made a show just about Bitcoin. That's all it was about.
Yeah, well, that's how I knew about you.
Yeah, it's the biggest show in the world about Bitcoin. And I lost purpose with it. I'd done 860 interviews, everyone could possibly do. There was nothing more to talk about Bitcoin. We did it. Okay. And so I really was concerned about what was happening politically in the country. And I thought, I'm going to go back and make a show which talks about the issues in the country. And 3 of my sponsors came over with me, which was great because it supported me to do what I wanted to do. But now I'm essentially a slave to achieving the numbers for what I said I would do.
I'm so glad you're telling me this because it's validated the choices that I made. So I don't have a sponsorship. And I never will.
Well, so that's the point. So if I discard them all, discard the ego, discard the studio, I can set this up. I've got a room at my house. I could set this up, have exactly the same, and my cost base goes to 0.
Yeah, I've got none.
Apart from maybe paying my son, right? And I know, look, some of these sponsors are going to say, look, we want to stick with you. We like what you do. And I can go, yeah, cool. You can pay me half the price and I'm doing exactly what I want to do. And anytime you want to pull, you can. And then all I ever do is turn on the mic and talk about the things I want to do. And ironically, I imagine this is what will happen. For a period of a year or two, we'll have a dip. We'll have some spikes on certain things that we hit. And then ultimately the show will probably end up bigger and more successful. I will be more content. I will have more time around my family. Because like when we make a show, I'm going to London after this to make a show. On a normal day, it's like yesterday, me and my son, we left at 8 in the morning. We drive in because we're preparing for a show, so we'll listen to other interviews. We get there, and by the time we've done the 2 shows we want to make, it's 6 o'clock when we leave. We get home by 8 o'clock. I'm a commuter. I used to commute when I worked in the advertising industry when I hated...
Where do you live?
Bedfordshire.
Okay.
In Bedford itself. And I hated that. And the point of the podcast was to get away from that. And I've essentially recreated that. So I luckily got to drop my daughter off at school yesterday. But by the time I get back, she's had her dinner. She's like preparing to like settle down. I should have been there when she got home from school. I should have ate with her. When she was revising for her tests, her mocks, I should have been sat with her, helping her with her revision. But no, my ego says I've got to have this big, successful podcast, which means I have. And I'm just...
Can I quickly tell you something?
Let me tell you one important line.
Yeah, tell me.
On this. Because I said this to somebody the other day. That famous saying that people say, like a wealthy, successful businessman on his deathbed says, they never wished they'd worked harder. Well, I think there's another one that you can add to that. I don't think anyone would have wished they'd spent less time with their children. And right now, I have enough money to retire tomorrow, and I'm choosing to have less time with my children because of ego, success, and money. And that is just living a lie. And how many people are living that stupid lie?
Dude, amazing that you're freaking being so honest and realizing this. So it works, by the way. So I started this podcast 2.5 years ago. I've got about 10 to 15,000 listeners per episode.
That's nice.
It's nice. It's not bad. And not just that, I've got a very invested audience. So you'll appreciate this about audience retention. So normally for an average podcast, audience retention from beginning to end, what, 30, 40%?
Yeah.
And if it's a long format, 2 hours, I mean, that's definitely average. Honestly, mine's just about 75%. So the people who are listening are really interested in what you and I have to say, and they stick at it, and they're very loyal. So I have like a subscriber base. So they subscribe to basically listen to my show. So the first hour is free. And then anything after that, then you have to subscribe to pay extra to, and I deliberately have stayed away from sponsors and ads, because sponsors mean that you're beholden to them, and one or two just drop you and suddenly you're in trouble. Whereas if you've got several hundred subscribers, like what, if they don't like something you say, okay, you might lose some, but you're not beholden to each and every one of them. You get to be your true authentic self and say what you want.
Do you know the, have you ever seen the presentation from the founder of Patreon? It's called 1,000 True Fans. And it's incredible. He said, people think they need millions of likes or millions of shares or whatever it is. He said, you need 1,000 true fans. People who 100% will go to bat for you, who love everything you do, to be able to create a life. So if you're a musician, yeah, you want to play Brixton Academy, and one day you dream of walking out and saying, hello, Wembley. But like, your starting point is you are an artist and you want to be able to finance your life as an artist. You need 1,000 true fans, because if you have 1,000 true fans and you have something like Patreon, when you make a new record and you release that, they're going to buy it. If you create a t-shirt and you release it, they're going to buy it. And that 1,000 true fans is what creates you the hurdle to be able to be an artist. Everything on top of that is a bonus.
100%.
And it sounds like
100%.
It sounds like you have what you require to live the life you want.
Yeah.
I already have it. My problem is I have chains holding me back.
Well, they're seriously just mental. So I have got my true fans, and you know what? I've got Dale in Singapore. I've got Mark in Santa Monica. I've got Harold in Switzerland. I've got Joan in Adelaide. I've got all these people. I've got Quentin Craven in Dorset, or wherever he is. He's going to get upset. You know, I know them all, and they're all wonderful, and they're loyal, and they love me, and I love them back. And you can definitely have a setup like this, which is so wonderful. So I get up at 5 every morning. make my wife a coffee while she's getting ready for work.
Love that.
And then I have my coffee, I have my little red lamp, I check a few emails, then I do my stretching and my strength training for about 45 minutes. Then I wake up the kids, but before I do that, I actually go and cuddle them all for about 5 minutes and scratch their backs. Don't ask, that's what they like. And then I make them breakfast, then I make them pack lunch, then I drop them off at school. Then I come over here, I do a cold bath or cold plunge.
You're so wealthy.
and then I read a little bit. I was writing my book when you rang me to say, where are you? Everybody does that. And then I have this lovely chat with you. And then I'll hopefully upload an episode for tomorrow and then maybe write a Substack around it. And then I'll go pick up my kids. I'll play with them, chat to them, make their tea. Wife will come. I'll have dinner ready for her and we'll have one meal a day. And then we put them to bed, read to them. And then my wife and I spend about half an hour massaging each other while we watch TV or just chat or go in the sauna. We like to do that in the evening. And then rinse, repeat, go to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock and wake up.
You are so rich. You are so rich. It's funny. The house I bought had a garden room in it when we bought it. And for 3 years, it sat there with boxes from when I moved in. Boxes, which are chains, really. What do you do with those boxes? You find a new place to put them. So they're up in I would be better throwing them into a hole in the ground. Jiddu Krishnamurti talks a lot about this. He talks about like somebody who's read him will explain this better. But we create so many things which are pressures on our mental state. So when you buy a house, you have a picket fence. Well, you have to paint the picket fence. And then you have to fill the house with things like tables and chairs, which then you have to clean. And if you have a car, you have to wash. And then you have insurance. You have all these pressures and things that are kind of pressures on your life, which is a tangent from where I was going, by the way. But anyway, so this garden room, I was looking at it about 3 months ago and said, what should I do with this? By the way, it would have made a great podcast studio. I turned it into a sauna.
Bingo.
Every single morning, without fail, I get up, turn it on, I sit in the hot tub for half an hour, just kind of calibrate myself to the world. When it's heated up, I get in that sauna and I switch off for 15, 20 minutes and I'm ready for the day.
It's nice, isn't it?
It is the best investment I've ever done. I would say to anyone who doesn't have a sauna, and if you're looking at, I don't know, getting a Porsche or a BMW, an expensive car, get a car half the price and buy a sauna. You will use it every single day.
On that note, I do have an affiliate code. So folks, this is perfect time. I've never done this. All right. Heracles Wellness, 3% discount for me, British company, and they love what I'm doing and they're amazing. And I just want to ask you about the sauna, right?
Yes.
So sauna is amazing. It's for your mental health, also for lots of other things. Folks, I'm just going to read out some reviews that I've had from recent consultations. So Christian, a great help to discuss my recent diagnosis with someone so knowledgeable, practical, helpful advice, and easy to chat on the Zoom call. Dr. Malik has given me lots of things to look into myself, which is empowering in itself. I would never have gotten this much help from the conventional services. Really appreciate your input. Thanks so much, Jock. And then another one, Michaela. With all I've learned about the medical industrial complex, I was terrified about an upcoming operation. Lots of aspects I didn't understand the implications of, or even if it was a sensible idea to go ahead. Ahmed patiently took me through each of my concerns, explaining each in terms I could understand with lots of visuals he'd prepared. By the end of the session, I'd made my decision, and more importantly, I was comfortable with it. You can't put a price on the peace of mind. It was money well worth spent. Do it. Folks, if this resonates with you, book a consultation with me. Visit my website, docmalik.com. I'd love to help you. Okay, enjoy the show. You had an SVT.
I had an SVT.
That's probably all the cocaine you were taking.
Yes, yeah. No, that's what triggered it. But I thought I was having a heart attack. It's all the same symptoms of a heart attack. And so ambulance came, picked me up, took me to the hospital, strapped up to everything because I thought I was having a heart attack. And then eventually the doctor came to see me and he said, you've had something called an SVT, explain what it is. He was like, what have you done this evening? And just be honest. And I said, I've been doing cocaine all day. And he was brilliant. He said, listen, I get it. I'm not here to tell you what you can and you shouldn't do in your life. I'm not going to moralize over you. But there's a scenario this evening whereby it's not me talking to you, it's me talking to your kids and explain to you the dad's not coming home. So take this as a lesson, stop cocaine and fix your life. I listened to him and I totally ignored him. 2 days later, I was doing cocaine again. But it triggered another SVT. And so the ambulance came to the house, calmed me down. I had 4 more SVTs over the next month, not even triggered by doing cocaine. And I ended up going to a party and out came the cocaine. And I couldn't do it. I got full anxiety of it in front of me. So I was like...
This is a long time ago, isn't it?
This is 13 years ago. And so I was like, well, I can't do that anymore. So lucky, because if the anxiety hadn't been triggered, I would have had to do it. But what came after that was a deep and dark depression, anxiety, panic attacks. So I went to the doctors and told them everything. And he said, you should go to Cocaine Anonymous, a therapy group, and we're going to prescribe you antidepressants and beta blockers. And I got in the car afterwards and I was like, I don't want to do antidepressants. I don't want to do beta blockers. So I went on my phone and I was like, what are the alternatives? And it was running, meditation and yoga. So I went down to JD Sports, bought a pair of trainers, and I ran that day. I quit work. And honestly, I was like Forrest Gump. For a year, I ran pretty much every day. I got down to 12 and a half stone. I mean, I'm probably, 16 stone now. I would run 10K most days and a half marathon every week. Every time I had a panic attack or anxiety, I'd use this app called Calm, and I would just meditate with the Calm app. And I would go to the gym and do any class available. I didn't work for a whole year. So that could be, I was doing bloody Pilates with old ladies. I'm pretty sure they thought I was gay because I would turn up in my vest and do Pilates with them. And I would do spinning and yoga. And then I went out to India for a week and did yoga in India. And at the end of that year, honestly, I could not have been happier. I was in great shape. I'd gone vegan. I was eating well. I was cooking every meal. I was there with my kids. I was living my best life. And then I started a podcast, bought a football club, bought a bar, opened a gym, and slowly over the space of around 10 years, no, I'd say 8 years, I, little bit every day, undid everything I had done to get myself in a good place. And it's very strange because it took me about a year of running, meditation and yoga, just getting the most wonderful place in the world. And it took 8 years to undo it. Because when you undo it so slowly. Yeah. And the reality is, like, I've accepted is like, I am an addict. Okay. I'm first and foremost an addict. But addiction's funny because you can pick good addictions. So a bad addiction would be cocaine or alcohol or even work. But good addictions are things like when I obsessed over running. And I ran every day, or I obsessed over my food and I would go to the farmer's market, or I'd go to the farm and I would get fresh vegetables and I'd go back and I'd make everything like beautifully. And there's like a reality in that if you are an addict, you've got to recognize the dopamine can come from good things and can come from bad things. But when it comes from good things, it points your life in a good direction. When it comes from bad things, ultimately it's destructive.
Do you know, I've never drunk alcohol in my life. And so I gave up Islam 20 years ago. I don't believe in any organized religion. I have a direct relationship with my creator, and that's it. So I'm not an atheist, but I think there's definitely a creator. I think there is a God.
Why did you give up on Islam?
Long story.
Okay.
We'll come back to that if you want.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is, like, a lot of people expected me to start drinking at that point, and I said I don't drink. I'm teetotal, and they're like, "What are you a Muslim?" I'm like, "No, I'm not. There's nothing to do with that. It's actually I was like you. I was very much all or nothing, and I was worried that if I started drinking, I'd be like outside King's Cross Station, saying, "All right, pal, big issue, mate," and I'd be like, "I don't need that in my life. I'm okay. I'm good." And I've just seen so many problems with people with alcohol. I mean, my neighbor died of alcoholism just last year. So, you know, I've seen it, especially when you're growing up in Glasgow. But I would change the word addict to habits. So habits are easy, and you can have good habits and bad habits. change is what's difficult.
Yes.
And I'm always like, I do a consultation service online. I guess I can plug that as well, folks. Check out my website, book a consultation. And I am, whether it's second opinions about a condition you've been told by your doctor or just getting healthy again. And that's why I tell people it's all about habits, good habits, bad habits. And it's the change that's difficult.
This is the last final boss for me is my nicotine addiction. But there's apparently, I think I even have the book. Is it Atomic Habits? Is a very good book about this.
Atomic Habits? Oh,
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, and isn't it like it takes 2 weeks or something?
Oh, it's longer than that. It's longer than that.
So I thought it was 2 weeks to change a habit.
No, it's longer than that. So it's more like 90 days. And what happens is in the first 2 weeks, you've got this euphoria. You're, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. It's going to be amazing. Then you hit 21, 22 days, and a lot of people go, oh, I'm not getting the results of one, and kind of regress and relapse. And you need to stick it through. So what I would say is people always overestimate what they can achieve in the short term and really underestimate what they can achieve in the long term. And you just need that long-term vision. Like, this is going to work. So, I've several years ago, I was diabetic, fatty liver, hypertensive, low testosterone, low libido, always tired, woke up sluggish, miserable.
You're describing me at the moment.
Waist size 36,
yep.
86 kilograms,
A bit more.
Okay, like no muscle, just weak, aching everywhere. Now I'm 50, literally 10 years on, my waist size is 28. I've almost got a 6-pack. I've got a 4-pack right now. I do my pull-ups and push-ups and exercise. My libido is great. I've turned everything around. You can turn things around. You don't need to age miserably. And this morning, just before you came, I dropped off my car for an MOT. And I've been speaking to the garage owner about getting healthy. And I keep telling him, and he's like, I know, but I'm busy. And today he was like, right, Doc, I need to take up your service here. I'm going to come around. We've booked a date in the calendar. He's going to come around. And for nothing, I don't want to charge him. He's in the community. Because he's pissing blood out of his urine, and he's like, you're right. You warned me something's going to happen, and I'm not, and I just ignored you. I've had enough now. I need to sort this out. Like, health is everything.
Doc,
everything.
Doc, I've had enough of this.
No.
I'm 36-inch waist. I'm wearing a new shirt today because none of my old shirts fit me. Also, another reason, people keep saying I dress like a child, and I kind of do. I just need to be a bit more grown up with how I dress. But
No, don't grow up.
No, not fully grow up. But I'm probably, 92 kg. I sleep better, but I don't sleep well. I've lost a lot of motivation recently. I mean, anyone listening is going to go, "Oh, who's this miserable guy?"
No, you know what? I think you're being honest.
No,
because
true.
Most people are living a lie, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. And this is after speaking to thousands of people as a doctor, right? Most people lie that they're happy in their job. Most people lie that they're happy in their relationship. Most people lie that they're happy and have purpose. Most people lie that they're healthy. Most people are taking nicotine gums and Moderna or Zempic, SSRIs, and God knows what else, and they think they're okay and they're healthy. They're all lying to themselves.
Well, I don't want to.
You're not lying to yourself.
I don't want the fat jab, that's for sure. I'm going to stick with the nicotine for a little bit longer. But I've lost a lot of motivation recently. Like, I always had this ambition, work hard, and I just can't be bothered anymore.
Do you know what I think you're on the cusp of?
Old age, retirement.
No.
Go on.
I honestly, just sitting here opposite you, and you give off a good energy, by the way.
I don't want people to be confused. I am so blessed and privileged in life, and I am happy. I'm just not who I was a year ago, and I can't. I mean, I know a lot what a lot of it's about, but I want my motivation back, but not directed towards what it used to be directed towards.
So I think you're on the cusp of spiritual awakening.
I think you might be right.
No, I am right.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, you will get to this point in your life when you realize there's a much bigger game here, that we are eternal spiritual beings, Peter. Right? We live forever. We are magnificent. We are actually so powerful, so incredible. And we have deliberately forgotten who we are. And this existence is a test to see how we deal with this simulation, this matrix, whatever.
How are you sure?
Trust me. For me, I've been on my magic little mushroom journey it was about 13 months ago, and that solidified everything for me. I met the God consciousness. I came home, and I saw the whole timeline of humanity and civilization, the universe. And I know that this is not the be all and end all, and I'm not scared of death. And I'm no longer chasing material things, because I will not be remembered for having a Lamborghini, or I will be remembered for the impact that I made on people's lives. That's whether it's my close family and my children, my wife, people happy around the world. That's the most important thing. Like, did you leave this world in a better place than when you arrived? That's our purpose here, and to learn and to grow. And you are learning and growing.
It's like the Tibetan book of Living and Dying. Do you know that book?
Yep.
So I have tried to read it, I think it must be 6 times now. And I get to about chapter 3 and I stop. And I think I've never been ready to get past chapter 3. And I can't remember why, but like, you come to that understanding that the entirety of a life of a Tibetan monk is to be prepared for death. Every decision they make is preparing for death. So when they leave the world, they're ready for whatever it is that comes after. And I haven't touched that book probably now for a few years. And possibly because every time I read it, I wasn't ready to go past chapter 3, because I was still living a life where I, rather than preparing for death, I was preparing for a year's time, 5 years' time, the stuff I think I needed for my ego, or the reflection I wanted to put out into the world. And let me tell you another story. This is really interesting. So I went to a wedding in America last year. I met up with a friend of mine, and we took a taxi to the Uber together. And he's wealthy, much more wealthy than I am. And we're having a conversation. And he said to me, "Pete, how do you know when you've got enough?" And I was like, "Oh, I think I've got enough." He's like, "Yeah, but have you?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, I mean, I've definitely got enough." Like, he's like, "How do you know you have?" I was like, "Well, I can pretty much buy anything I want, right? All right, I'm not a yacht guy, I can't have 12 cars, and I can't get a private jet. But the amount of work and luck required to get to that next stage is beyond me. And, so I've got enough." He's like, "Yeah, I don't think I have." And I was like, and in that car, and I've told that story on my podcast, because he will never have enough now. I don't think he will have that moment. I don't think he'll have that moment of realization. And I've come further than that. It's not only that I have enough, I have too much. I don't have enough of the right stuff. I have enough of the material wealth and things. I have too much. I can just give some of this away. I don't need this. What I don't have enough of is the most important scarce item in the world, which is time. There's a very famous saying, an inch of time is worth an inch of gold, but you cannot buy an inch of time with an inch of gold. I often think of Steve Jobs with that. And Steve Jobs was struck down with cancer. He was one of the richest, if not the richest guy in the world. The money meant nothing at that point. There was no doctor who could cure his cancer, and he died. And perhaps he died an unhappy man. Maybe he died happy. I don't know Steve Jobs. But we know on reflection he didn't have a great relationship with his family. And perhaps when he was on his deathbed, he realized it. I don't know. I just don't want to be that guy on his deathbed who thinks you had everything pointed at you at a moment in time, multiple moments in time, which were saying to you, you're living a lie. You are. And I think what it is death can hit us at any point. I could leave here, drive into London, flip the car over and die. And I'm saying that because Mike Cernovich said that on the interview I listened on the way over. Or I could get struck down with cancer in a week and I would face death. And I don't want to die. Even if I'd made all the right choices, facing cancer would be horrible. But I don't want any of those things to hit me at a time before I've made the right decisions. If I made the right decisions and I spent enough time with my children and guided them and given them enough love, at least when those things happened, like at least when death comes at me, it comes at me at a time where I'm happy with the decisions I've made before it. But when it comes at you at a time after you, like without having made those decisions, you're going to be dying with regret, or you're going to be trying to crunch in as much as the stuff that really matters. Like if I got cancer tomorrow, I quit every company I have, because it's like, well, what's the point? There's no point working because I've got enough money until I die. And that's so stupid when you think about it. It's so moronic. And so, I don't know, man.
Do you know the way
you've got me on a hell of a day.
Do you know the way I look at life is, my lens has gone a bit funny. Why is that? Why is it autofocus not working? I'm coming up.
Probably because you look better than me and it wants to even things out.
That's really strange. I've never had this before where the camera's just not focusing properly. I'm just going to get up and turn it on and off.
You do that.
It's just a blur pixelated. No, I think this is a great day that you're coming, by the way.
Well, you've got me on.
Deeply philosophical.
Yeah, I hit a fork when I came to see you. No, but I've been quite philosophical for the last, I don't know, last few months. I'm reading.
I think it's beautiful.
I'm reading a lot.
Listen, I think there was a reason why you accepted my podcast, despite not knowing anything about me. I think it's brilliant. So I had this idea in my head that I've already died. Yes. I have died, and every day now is just a gift. That's where I am. So all those things that you're talking about right now, it's like, do you know what? I could literally die now, and I'm okay. I don't have any regrets. I'm not worried about my kids. I talk to my kids so much. And one of the beautiful things is whenever people come and visit, or have my babysitters come, when my wife and I go out to a concert, whatever, they go, your kids are like, they're so special. They're like amazing. They talk. They're so articulate. Like you can tell that you are talking to them because the way they speak, like my 17-year-old teenager doesn't even talk like them. Like, is your little boy literally just 6? He's only just turned 7. I'm like, yeah. So I've imparted on them everything I think I really wanted to tell them. Like they know they're switched on more than I could ever imagine, you know, me at that time. And I've achieved everything I wanted to achieve. So yeah, I think I could die tomorrow and I'd be like, I'm all right. I'm okay.
Well, maybe we go through a few deaths in our life while we live it.
Yes.
Maybe this conversation or this day is a day where the old me died. Maybe I'm like a snake. Today I've shed the skin and there's a new life that comes after this. Maybe that is what's happening, and maybe that's a gift. And it's there's like
yes,
I
love that.
It even feels like an attack on. No, do you know what it feels like? It feels like doing this in public. Like I don't know the people who listen to this. I've been.
They're beautiful people, by the way.
But I've been a slave to the comments on YouTube where people are like, you're a fucking idiot. Maybe I had to do this in public to face it, because from this day, we will be friends, and I consider somebody a friend as somebody I haven't fallen out with. So I might only spend 1 or 2 times with you again in the future of my life, but I think I'll see you again. You know, we'll revisit this, whether it's my podcast or yours. But it's almost like by having this conversation, I've created the need to come back to you and talk to you again. Because if I come back and sit to you again in a year, and I'm like, yeah, everything's still the same, I'm a fraud. I'm a fraud to you. I'm a fraud to myself. I'm a fraud to the listeners. So if I come back and maybe I've lost 10 G's, and I'm like, yeah, I got rid of that business, and I'm seeing my kids, and I'm doing this. It's like, and I'm happier. Then maybe this was needed today.
You manifested this,
perhaps, or just it just happened. it just happened. Who's to know?
So talking about shedding skins.
Yeah,
100%. So let's talk about why I left my religion. So I've had so many skins. Working class lad coming out of Govan, then university, coming down to London, being brought up as a Muslim. Turned out it wasn't just any old type of Muslim. Turned out I grew up in a cult. And for most of my childhood years, I didn't know I was in a cult. Didn't know that. I grew up in a, time when there weren't that many Pakistanis around in Glasgow. And even my imam was this white guy who converted when he was out in India. His name was Mr. Orchard. And so we there was only like 4 or 5 families that went to this mosque. And, that's what I grew up as, thinking, these are all our Muslim family and friends. And then I go to university, and at school, we're the only Muslims, the only brown kids. And then you go to university and suddenly like you meet all these other Muslims and you go, oh, hello. And they're like, oh, what kind of Muslim are you? I'm like, I'm this kind of Muslim. And they're like, oh, so you're not a Sunni or you're not Shia. I'm like, no, I'm an Ahmadi Muslim. They're like, that's not a Muslim. I'm like, what? What do you mean? Of course I am. Like, spent 17 years going to a mosque and wearing a hat and praying. They're like, no, you're not Muslim. I'm like, what? Well, you believe in that funny promised Messiah. That's heretical. And like, you're just like a freaking weird cult. I'm like, what? And suddenly all the other Muslims didn't want to talk to me. So I'm like, suddenly find what I think is my tribe, and they don't want to know anything about me. And then you just think they're the ones that are in the wrong. Because when you're in a cult, you don't think you're in a cult. No one who is in a cult actually thinks they're in a cult, by the way. And
could you argue that everything I've said today about what I believe we're meant to do in life is also a cult?
No. Because that doesn't meet the definition of a cult. I can tell you about that.
Cult?
I can tell you about the definitions of a cult. Yeah, I'll tell you what a cult is. So a cult is where you have charismatic leaderships, an ideology of some sort, a cult following that is obedient to the leadership to a fault and cannot question them. The strictest form of punishment is being ostracized from the cult and all the social connections that come with it. There's a heavy financial and often sexual element to it. And it's all about control of the leaders over the followers. And the policing is done by the fellow cult followers, not the leadership itself.
So is that all religion?
Oh, yeah.
So all religion?
I think so.
Even some of those weirdo yogi guys as well?
Oh, yeah.
Waco?
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them. So anyway, what happened was I got a semi-arranged marriage. I was a really good boy, didn't mess around. Got a semi-arranged marriage. And it was very painful, very difficult, very, very painful. And I got angry with God. And I was like, man, I did everything by the book. And this is what I get totally royally screwed. And I was really angry. And I had a lot of things happen to me. I was in a car crash. Someone bashed into the back of me, unlicensed, uninsured taxi driver. I ended up getting, emergency spinal surgery. I was bullied at work. It was just coming to a point where I was just really angry with life. I just felt like I got the short stick of everything. So I told my dad. He flew down from Glasgow and he went, you need to leave. This is not good. Why didn't you tell us that you're going through this? I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. And I have got no self-worth. I feel I deserve this. And he was wonderful for me. And I had a difficult relationship with my dad. And from that day onwards, it was just so healing, and we bonded like never before. And I'm 30 years old at this point, and I never really clicked with my dad. And my dad had his own demons, and he told me about his own demons. And it's very personal. I don't want to share it, but I saw him in a completely different light. Suddenly, he wasn't this angry man, distant and cold. He was literally just a child, hurting.
But that happens in life.
Yeah.
There's no like point in time. But there's a time when you do yourself look at your father and no longer see the strong adult ahead of you. You see the child inside them.
Yeah.
Because I know the child that exists still within inside me.
Yeah.
And it never goes, but you portray the adult. But we all have that inner child. And, I recognize that in my father now. It's no weakness of his. He's an incredible man. He's done everything for me. And, but I've seen that in him.
Exactly.
And because I've seen that in him, I know it exists within me, and I know my children will see it in me and probably see it in me before I realize they see it in me.
Absolutely. So I remember where I was. I was standing outside Tower of London on the river, South Bank, Bermondsey, and my dad hugged me and cried, and we bonded like never before, and we started going on holidays together and really hanging out. It was wonderful. So I went for that divorce, and I was really angry with God. I was like, why would I go for this? Why would any religion do this? And I started really questioning religion. And I just got really upset because when I was trying to go through the divorce process, the mosque was getting involved and were just being idiotic and stupid, and just made me angry. And I never lost my connection with God, because why would I be angry and swearing at him if I had, like, like I would have just thought there's no God. And the more I studied and researched, I realized actually I was in a cult. And I looked at all the other religions. I thought they're all very cultish as well. And I think religion's all about guilt, shame, and control at the end of the day. And actually, I don't need religion or a priest to connect with the divine, with God. And I really liked Christ's teachings. And I think when Christ was saying, like, follow me, he meant like literally follow what I'm doing and follow me, not as in worship me. So I follow like Christ's teachings, but I'm not Christian. I'm not a fan of any kind of organized religion, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I've shed the religion, I've shed that cult. Then I went into the NHS. I shed that cult. I left the NHS cult because I realized as a consultant, head of the department, what was actually happening behind the scenes. And it's all a lie. There's plenty of money in the NHS. It's so corrupt. It's unbelievable. It funnels your taxpayers' money and mine into private corporations and organizations. It is designed to be like, it's not inefficient and wasteful because
it's very efficient at giving the wrong people our money.
Exactly. A system is not flawed. It does what it's designed to do. And the NHS is doing exactly what it's designed to do. It is built like that. And it cannot be fixed. You need a completely different structure. And I'm not saying that as like someone who always hated that. I was a cult follower. I loved the NHS. But it's so dangerous. And actually I would say the word evil if people actually understood how it worked. It fuels bad health. It does not fix the nation's health. So I left that cult, which is a huge thing to do. And then I went private. And then I spoke out against COVID, got cancelled. This thing that I aspired to be a consultant orthopedic surgeon in London, like you, treating Hollywood stars, literally people from the cabinet, which was quite interesting because I was treating someone in the cabinet who was very pro-EU, and I was in the Brexit party at the time, which was really bizarre. I shed that life, and now I'm a podcaster. And I know in 7 years' time, I won't be doing this. I will have shed the skins again, and I will be doing something different. And actually, I've got to the point now where I really embrace the change, and I love reinventing myself, and I love the hardship that comes with it. And when I look back, it was too easy as a surgeon. I could literally operate with my eyes closed. Not that I did, but I was at the top of the game. I didn't need to think about it. It was just easy. I wasn't pushing myself. And it was all about just more operations, more money, bigger house, bigger car, renovate this area, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that doesn't actually bring happiness. That's not what it's about. And I've gone on this spiritual journey in the last 3-4 years to the point where I'm actually really glad COVID happened. How bizarre is that? Because I'm a very different person. If you met me 3-4 years ago with a broken ankle and you met me now, you'd be like, whoa, you the guys the same people?
I think COVID did that to a lot of people.
Right.
I think it was despite everything pointing me in the direction of not trusting the institutions of government and the machinery of the state. When it happened, I still trusted elements and parts of the machinery of the state. I believe lockdowns were necessary at the start. I soon learned that they were a terrible mistake. And I took the jab, and I regret it so much. I mocked people who didn't. I didn't pressure them. I just laughed. I was like, what are you on about?
You're the only person I've heard say that publicly.
Oh, really?
Bravo.
I would have thought a lot of people would. I mean,
did you get 3 shots?
2 shots AstraZeneca. So not the worst, as I believe it. The Moderna is the worst, is that? Or
they're all bad.
They're all bad.
So, but you literally laughed at people who didn't take the shots.
When I went to, because everyone was being crazy, I'm like, man, every holiday I go on, I get shots and I get vaccines, and I've had vaccines as a kid. I made a tinfoil hat and I wore it when they gave me the jab, and I put it on Twitter laughing at people. And I have been mocked so much for it, and rightly so.
If you want to hear the rest of this conversation and join our private supporter community, the link is in the show notes. Remember, folks, your support keeps this work free, independent, and alive, simply for the cost of one coffee a month. All right, folks, thank you so much. I, Ahmed Malik, am a private civilian protected by the Geneva Convention. My Substack, social media posts, and podcasts are my personal experiences, observations, and opinions. This information is for educational purposes only. Although I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and I am not providing medical or legal advice to you or to the wider public. I am not licensed or registered with the GMC or any other licensing board. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence, and use of the information from my Substack and my podcast lies with you, the viewer and or listener. Please do your research and use your discernment. It is not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, conspire, blackmail, coerce, or cause anxiety, alarm, or distress to any man or woman, and the information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Enjoy, folks.